Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to this lesson of the school. And greetings to all those who are following from the territories of Italy, from India, Africa, South America. I'm thanking God for this possibility that we have also today to deepen life. Thanks to Father Angelo and the opportunity we have with this school. The opportunity of going deeper and deeper after last lessons where we have touched the greatness of falling in love and love. This lesson we're going to see how it is impossible to reach love until there are all sexual deviations are there. Precisely on this, I had the joy of writing a song which is named Walls of Water, that follows the what it is in coming out of all the seeds, where every person is created male or female, which is like a river that wants to reach the sea, which means love. But every time it doesn't find love in the right time, in the right way, it deviates and it is prevented and encounters all the lack of love that reduces it, meets the non-love of repression. And in my song, I'm speaking of water that dries up, which means sexuality is dried, it's getting dried in its force of identity. Or else, whenever there is not love, sexuality is lost in the isolation of masturbation. In fact, my song, Masturbation is the water that is stagnant water, which is like a swamp, which means whenever we don't have the strength of loving, and because of lack of love we don't manage to remain in ourselves and we are isolating ourselves. Or else, even when sexuality is blocked of homosexuality, which means incapacity of seeing the diversity. And in my song I speak actually of water within the same water. Or else, another deviation is when sexuality is deviated and it is reduced to what we call incest, which Father Angelo says when the bull becomes oxen and the female becomes hyphen, which means when we lose our identity in order to get along with each other. So we lose our identity because of relationships. Or else when, because of lack of love, sexuality is lost in materialism, which is represented by what Father Angelo calls as prostitution. All these are walls of water that today, thanks to God, thanks to the Virgin of Tears, thanks to Father Angelo, we have the possibility of seeing these walls in us, and we are capable of making them fall down. And so I'm praying for each one of us because, first of all, we need to see such worlds, but seeing them is not enough. What is needed is the old relationship with God, the old relationship of love, whatever has lacked with the Virgin Mary, which is our mother, with Christ, incarnating ourselves like Him, with Him, in order to defeat these devils on sexuality, in order to go back to the love of Father. But what is needed is the whole missionary commitment, the whole charity necessary to defeat such worlds. My experience is that the more we perceive, participate, and persist in this personal movement, the more we have light on these walls of water. And so the truth that makes us free. That's what I pray for and I thank. This is walls of water. we know we are all kings, priests, prophets, but even poets. Like in this song, she has been poetress. And and it is wonderful. The lesson of today is about whenever there are the sexual conditionings and like repression, masturbation, homosexuality, incest, and prostitution, how can one reach falling in love and love that we have dealt with the last lesson? Falling in love and love. So we need the sexuality of those who are fallen in love. That's why I want to read something for you because, as we have seen at the time, only two persons who are falling in love can make love. Those who don't have all the forces of God, of soul or nerves, like the Virgin Mary, the sexuality, like the Virgin Mary, all the nerves and body, which means all those who are not falling in love, they have this, not these forces. They don't have such forces as healthy, like in the Virgin Mary that never died. And so, whenever love is not there, but love is always respect and exchange or respect in the right time, in the right way of the forces of God, like the Virgin Mary, like the force of soul, like the Virgin Mary, the forces of sex, like the Virgin Mary, the forces of nerves, like the Virgin Mary, the forces of body, like the Virgin Mary. All these are 90% of our energies. These energies are 90% and they are unconscious. And if you don't see the unconscious, how can you see the causes which are inside you now recorded? So you can realize what an ignorance which is currently there. But even yesterday it was like this. So there is high need for getting rid of such ignorance in order to really reach falling in love, because only two persons falling in love can love, can exchange love. And love, it is not among those who are attracted, but even homosexual are attracted by each other, but they are not loving. And so certainly we have seen what falling in love and love is. And the subject of today, whenever there is not love, there is not love, there is not falling in love, there is a repression, masturbation, incest. I don't want to speak much about this, and they are very much explained in the coming out of all the seeds. The Italian version is from page 58 to 70. I can give some brief explanation. This is from chapter 19 on. And so we are created like in the high peak of the mountain where the river is born among the ice. The river needs to reach the sea. So we are like from the ice to the sea, no? This pastime is always present because it's the cord. So the lack of love is wounding the child. And this water, as we have seen at the other time in the video of the creation, in the video of the intrauterine child, whenever there is not love, there is the devil. and the negativity that since it doesn't change, the devil is present and the past time is present. Now, repression is like schizophrenia, which means water doesn't flow. It is just like remaining in the glacier and the ice, no? The parents don't understand often this, no? I had an experience of a boy of 15 years old. He was repressed. He wanted to become a priest. Imagine if a repressed person can be a priest. I told him I regret this because from repression, moving towards a solution is a big work. Another priest instead insisted he went to the seminary and after 1 month and a half he committed himself suicide. This is what repression means, which means whenever sexuality in love is not there, sexuality cannot grow. It is just blocked. That is repression. Or else there is a bit of warmth, no? From the glacier of the mountain. A bit of warmth is there, so the ice is melt. A bit of water is there, no? But love is too little, and so movement is there, but very little, so it becomes an isolation, masturbation. How many people do masturbate, but even if many others, even if they don't masturbate themselves physically, they're isolated. They have such a confusion on sexuality, but nowadays there is such a confusion on the whole of sexuality. And all is at unconscious level. Just consider what the family can do in front of that. And how can the children grow in front of all this? How can the woman grow until reaching falling in love if she is isolated? And how can a man do be a true man, no? If he remains isolated? Just think of the man as well, no? If he can relate with a woman. So love is also light, which is necessary. As we have seen in the love, like the other time, falling in love. Only those who are falling in love can love each other. Otherwise, the man project is on deviation. So the woman, the wife, and the wife projects her own immaturities, sexual deviation onto the man. As we have likely seen in the DVD, we have seen the first 30 days. I'm actually in love with what the father said does in the first 30 days. The first 30 days, there is the work of creation of God. When the sperm and ovum meet, but immediately after conception, the epigenetic force intervenes and gets rid of in the germ cells of all what is in the past, coming from the past in the germ cells. So I was wondering about this process. I was perceiving, and I had to look into this fact. And in the end, after my investigations, I realized that in the sperm and ovum, there are all the negative identifications of the previous centuries. Never seen, never saw. So here we can see the greatness of the Father, the Creator, that gets rid at that time of encounter all this negative identification coming from the past. And in the first 30 days, the great grace is that what remains there, it is the father and the mother together. It is the first produce of this encounter, which is the uniqueness. And but if father and mother are not true bull or female, all this weakness falls on top of the child. It is nobody's fault, but that is the reality. So you can see that as a consequence of repression when there is the extreme cold. And today there is a lot of repression. Or else masturbation, which means isolation. Or else, going a bit ahead, the river goes a bit ahead and reaches the plains, and it confuses with the same water. So homosexuality, man with man, woman with woman. You see, culturally, many people say homosexuality is normal. No, I can't agree. I've seen that homosexuality is the result of lack of love, full stop. So, homosexuality, how many homosexual persons have met? But it is needed a lot of commitment, a lot of energies, a lot of time to solve this. So, after homosexuality, the river goes much ahead and reaching the most common deviations like incest. If one doesn't have light, doesn't have faith, and doesn't have charity, love, how can one reach all the way down and till reaching genital overcoming this deviation in its sexuality? So incest is much common. It is the most common deviation, and it is very common. After repression, masturbation, homosexuality, incest means the bull become oxen and the female become hyphen. All those who don't solve their sexuality in love, lack of love, how can one solve such conditionings which are not because of you, are not your fault, but yet they are in your unconscious. They always come from lack of love, and there's need of a great, great love. That's why the Father, when created the child, he got rid in the of the sperms with negative identifications inside. That is because of the love of God. The Lord being in love with his child created. But the Father is truly Father, and that's why he sent us Christ. And even if I don't have sexuality, I'm repressed, I'm a masturbator, if I'm homosexual, if I'm incestuous, and if I have this, actually, the scripture says prostitute will overtake you. And actually, prostitution is much, much stronger than repression, masturbation, homosexuality, and incest. In fact, prostitutes will overtake you, will come ahead of you. That is also what the gospel says very clearly. So you have to see these chapters of coming out of all the seeds. But for the river to reach the sea, one need love. We need the love in order to be in love. To be in love. In fact, in the first 30 days, you are only with the love of God. And otherwise, there are negative identifications which occur when you don't see, you don't have light. You are not orderly, you are not like the Lord created you. God is love. Whoever is in love is remaining God, and God remains in him. And you fall onto the human beings, and you remain dependent on the human beings. Like, for example, work. I was touched by one person that called me yesterday. She's 47 years, 3 children. and she is risking losing the job like many Italian people. But this lady, having read something of what I have written, usually I say the work can be only creative and of service. It can't be dependent. He was really angry at the trade unions and the capitalists because he said trade unions, if they speak, they rely on laws. Capitalists often are even much better than trade unions because many capitalists are there, but they are not truly capitalists because they would like to give a hand, but they can't because the capitalistic system is disastrous. So, in order to make a creative work, we have to come out. Actually, we are more than six. We are 2 million people. And we have missionaries that have creativity, work, and of service, which is not based on money. It is not based on the trade unions and capitalists. As I told this lady, it is not so simple to have such a creative work. But we have the possibility of having even 4 million people. It is not easy. They can reach 900 euros per month, and they must have 8 territories and create communities in each territory, 2 communities each. And these communities are the communities of 9, 8, 7, 6, 4, and other one 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And until it makes a 9 adoption, one per month for 9 months, and so on. If this occurs, we give up 9, 10% of the adoptions. We give it to this, and it takes this. I give 10%, and this person takes this whenever when it has reached in each community with 40 adoptions. When it reaches all the adoptions, it takes this 10%, which is a creative work. And I told this woman, actually, I need to meet because nowadays things are not going well. Before the sexuality reaches the falling in love and reaches the sea, you can understand a bit why I have connected the caring with charity, because we are shortly reaching the reality of the twinings. Just things that the previous week I was astonished, surprised. 5 persons from the south of the world, Africa, India, South America, they got healed in their sexuality. And they are paid missionaries with the Italian people. This is what simply I know. I don't know how many more there are there. But these donors, helped by these persons of the south of the world, they said, they witnessed that they got healed by their cancer. So the healing, where is the healing? Is it on biochemical, on physical, or in love? The sickness Is it the sickness in the body, or is it in incapability of loving? Where are the sexuated people? Where is the reason why in Italy children are not being born any longer? This is what I want to read, a letter that I received just yesterday. Dear Father Angelo, I'm very happy to write uh, this letter to you, as you are an important person for the soul of so many people in the world. I adopted at a distance a girl in Uganda. It is a small action gesture of work or love. I thought I would have given, but instead I have received much more. This is actually twinings. That is the Eucharist. The persons from the south of the world who came are missionaries. By doing the adoption, I have discovered the treasure of your charism that is has been doing so much good to my life, to my family. I've always lived dark times among us. For this darkness, you can refer to the logo. You see the man with the darkness. He has the devils on top. But as you can see in the picture, the devil can touch the nerve, the soul, the sex, nerves, body, and mind, but he can't defeat God. That's why the person has that fire, that light, because the dark man can retrieve his own light, which is always God, and the devil can't defeat him. So when we reach cross, it is the blood of Christ that defeats devils. It is not me, but I had so many experiences on this. I had many exorcists that were not true exorcists. I mean, they were sick simply because they had been appointed by the bishops. And in fact, they had come to be healed by me. Because to defeat the devil, what is needed is the blood of Christ. With Christ that gives his body and blood and defeats the devil and what they produce, which means death and rises. I'm enchanted by Christ, which raised by defeating the devils, and he defeats the devil if I collaborate. And collaboration is means having the sexuality that reaches the say genital sexuality that never stops to repression, masturbation, homosexuality, incest, and prostitution. Never stopped at this. And so here it says in this letter, I've always lived dark times like in the dark man inside me and in a relationship with my wife and with my two children. A dark which I use to carry with me also in the work where everything was heavy. Because when you are dependent, the work must be creative, self reliant, of service, and independent. That is what I wish you. Trade unions and laws can't give work, and entrepreneurs must be very much enlightened know to give correct work. And I've lived dark times with me, with the relationship with my wife, and with my two children. The dark I used to carry with me also in the work. That's why we have these 10 books of mine. We must make communities and reading these books. In fact, in this letter, she says, thanks to the adoption, thanks to your books, I have finally given a name to that dark. I have seen the reason of my unconscious suffering. And I have seen that I was repeating with myself, with my wife, with my children, all the negative past that even unwillingly I was forced to repeat because this is because the nerve cells never change. Everything is recorded. I've always seen these experiences and I've seen being solved very easily because everybody is either repressed, masturbate, homosexual, incestuous, or prostitution, but generally nobody is genital because genitality means being fully in love with God, first of all, because they retrieve the force of God in us. And then we don't have love, we make disasters in us and in the others. The letters continue. I am astonished to realize that nobody in the world is seeing how the devil works in the negative identifications. And so, as a consequence, nobody can solve anything and never has a relationship. He's never with himself, never with God, never in the family. That's why I want communities that meet once in a week. These persons from the south of the world that have healed these Italian people, they meet every week and they work kilometers on foot to reach the community. I have the joy of the inner movement, inner movement, because I can see that we can clearly go out of that darkness with your books and above all with Christ crucified. And one and every devil can be chased away because Christ is stronger than the devil, but the devils can be chased with love. In fact, Jesus says, you will worship me in spirit and truth only. And the spirit is life, is all the truth and the charity. Whoever is not like this is going to be sick in the spirit and in the body. That's why I want communities based on the books because it is necessary, as it is seen clearly in this DVD. Whenever there is not love, there are all the sicknesses. And the letter says, I thank so much you and your books inspired the- all these books. And I thank the Ugandan family that has always sent me the videos of the lesson. I'm also thanking Sylvia, which has always me to see the spirit of the charisma in the training that she has been witnessing in her joyful way of living, of being. I'm thanking also so much to Davide, your collaborator that supports with you with a great positivity. I think this spirit, which is life, we must reach we must reach, otherwise nobody has it. We are not a parish, we are not a congregation. It is much more than a parish congregation. After tomorrow, on Tuesday, I will go on the Cardinal of Bologna. I'm going to tell him some things. He's a very good friend of mine, in order to reach and help the Pope as well. There is a wonderful article written also in the paper of today. Read it. We don't have time to read everything. There is an article that I wrote in December 2017, where I say, in life, in order not to be death, in life we must be orderly. We must live in the spirit which is life. Like the gospel of today, when speaks very, I love Jesus when he meets a person which is lepers, and says, "Can you heal me?" Yes, I can. And Jesus is tired of all these people that go to look for him to be healed. No, he doesn't want healing only, he wants conversion. Conversion is much more than healing. I know many people that have been healed but not converted. And so it goes, after that, it goes alone so that people can go to him in order to find the health of the spirit instead of trying or looking for the health of the body. Even me, I don't have much, I don't like any longer this. Because it is you, it is a personal commitment, because as we have seen the other time, only two persons in love can make love, and everything is personal. Personal means that you can need what you need. If this death has been there, and if this is what is happening on sexuality, what kind of culture do we have currently? What kind of experience do we have on sexuality? That's why, as I write in these articles, freedom is sexuality in love and sexual charity in the personal energies. This is what I was writing. Every person with the experience of the order of light, of freedom and Eucharist as a development of life and charity. And so always starts by one foster safeguarding of the personal energies that never be lost. In the first 30 days, there is only the love of God and the personal energies. All the personal energies, whoever is not depending by the poisons of the human beings and by the laws, it is not a person. If any of you is depending on what I am saying, you are not person. If I want missionary persons, that's why in the south of the world I'm very much satisfied by them, because mission is not a duty. It is, if I'm not facing the evil, it falls on top of me. Negative identification. So I have the obligation of seeing, otherwise they enter into me to fight against them from morning to evening. Otherwise, what am I going to be? That's why community is necessary with all my books, because my books come out of a great experience from 54 years from morning to evening. I never go studying this and all. His experience only, and I have been a partisan. I have never been willing to be dependent. I've been self-reliant since my young age. Even now, I never take any money. I made insurance. I'm not worried. I'm never worried about the money. But I have the administration because every month I'm paying 70%. But I'm not attached to person. If I had been attached to money, I would have died. Life is not money. It's not capitalism. It is not dependency. In order to reach sexuality and love, so sexual, non lo so. So I've always kept my personal energies. I didn't want to be a meatball, and and I have the grace of having been a taste, and it is when I was 15 years old. I wanted to kiss my girlfriends, and she was finally falling in love with me, so I was happy to kiss. At the time, she wanted to kiss me. Take care, I was atheist. Typical fool, I couldn't kiss. I didn't know why, but what is it happening? So since she was kissing me, she was trying to be naked, but I didn't know. But I didn't know. I wanted to kiss a woman, not a body. So I was refusing her. This happened because I was an atheist. Because if I had been believer with the priests which are there, I would have not been like that. I would have accepted to be reduced. Okay, it's quite long time, no? When I was 15, 16 years old, I was the justice maker of the school. And so all boys and girls in my class in the school, in order for me not to be like as weak as a meatball, I had to face many things. I was the justice maker, but I didn't have time any longer to go on the sea with the sailing boat, to be in the nature, which I like so much. So I was asking I was liking so much to this, go to mountain skiing. I didn't have the right time to do. So I was wondering, how can you avoid becoming a meatball? You see, at that time, God intervened because God is there. It is enough that you are there because He never substituted to you. Because I converted myself to Christ when I was 17 years because He never substituted to me. I read these romans called Promised Spouses. And I was wondering because there was a priest that was talking about the gospel. So I read the gospel throughout and I discovered what is Christ. It is the only one who opens the book of life as it is written in the Revelation book. I didn't know it by then, but I saw immediately Jesus, which is life, and which I need to be with Jesus in order to avoid being a stupid man or like the philosophers, human beings with the families. And so he, the Lord has given me graces over graces, and I've never been relying on on human beings. Already when I was very young, I was breeding. I was taking after growing and rabbits, no, to sell meat in the time of the World War, and so I was selling. So already when I was 12, I was a rebel of the partisan, and I was self-reliant. I was never studying in the afternoon, and I was moving abroad to see how the human beings, how the people live, and how the people are. And so I was following my plans to discover. I didn't want just to trust the school as such. So we must have the personal energies that can never be lost or betrayed. Point two, precisely for that, like in the intrauterine child, in order to live, these energies always need respect and exchange of respect, and which means living in love, which means being personally in love and never dependent, always in love. From such love can be found only in Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Don't speak of others. You see, the Virgin Mary, until the Virgin Mary was there, Christ couldn't be born. And he is born out of the Holy Spirit, from the Holy Spirit. And this is not just a fairy tales. We all need to be reborn, and to be reborn in all freedom and independence and charity of the Holy Spirit. Only like this, we can, after the experience of the Trinitarian love, one can grow until reaching the fall in love and sexuality in love. That's why I couldn't kiss this girl. And since she wanted to jump on me, I sent her away. I didn't want her. Yet I was an atheist. I didn't even know what these things were, but I was refusing. When I sent her away, she realized I was a bull. And she was following me. She wanted me. So falling in love means being bull, never be overdue by anything, by anybody, being independent, which means completeness of the energies of life, falling in love, all the forces of God, or soul, or nerves, or body and mind, like the Virgin Mary that never died. With falling in love, you make love and you die. The dead ones are those who don't live. Repression, masturbation, homosexuality, incest, and prostitutions. Only two in love can make a family. Two persons in love can make a family and love. Only two persons in love can avoid mass slaughtering the children with their own sexual deviations. That's why we need communities. I wish you to have these communities and not to be mad. I wish you to be in love and not to be mad. Unfortunately, after the first 30 days, as it is shown in this DVD, I made these videos in order not to waste the words. And after the first 30 days, in order to grow, the child always requires respect and exchange of respect. Such love can be found only in God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, not in the parents. Just and When Jesus was 12, he went away without asking for permission. And Saint Joseph and the Virgin Mary were looking for him, and in the end, they found him out. And they met him with anguish and say, "How could you do this?" And actually, he said, "Didn't you know I was supposed to do the will of my Father and following all the completeness of life and reaching the whole of freedom and truth and completeness only after the experience of the Trinitarian love we can reach falling in love and like the Virgin Mary that the soul glorifies the Lord and the spirit rejoices. You see, Adam and Eve went to mind the touch because of going to the ego. Sexuality without love, they lose their soul, they realized they were naked, so they lost sexuality, they entered death. Since the nerve cells record everything, and the devil produces death, but in order to defeat the devils, biochemicals are not enough, are useless. But many people in Africa told me that the true witch doctors are your doctors. But for us, we are not like yours because your doctors lose themselves on biochemicals. Instead, for us, we follow the connection between biochemical and nervous and sexual, between sexuality and nerves, and soul, and from soul and God. I have been working with doctors because there is a certain medical culture. Because they used to tell me the current medical culture, one enter in the hospital alive and it gets out as corpses. Trying to be doctors of yourself. The true doctor is love, God. Going back to this document, the value of the Mother Mary takes us to the value of Eucharist, which means community trainings, which means the community that we want to do, as we have seen the other week. There were we there were people being healed by the communities of the south of the world, and that is already twinning. And this is going to happen more and more often. And so we are all missionaries in order to see and solve the negative identifications, in order to see and solve. If I don't see these negativities, and the negativities fall on top of me, as this woman I was talking about, she hasn't seen, she hadn't seen the the negativities of the trade unions and also the capitalists. Be you co-creators, co-redeemers, capable of finding a self-reliant work. Actually, in my experience, I've always been self-reliant. I never been concerned about money, and I need to be missionary immediately in order not to have a negative identification, not to be, in order to be a bull. Because if I close myself, I don't see the evils. The evils will fall on top of me. In fact, that's why I'm 89 years and I'm still going for skiing. No, thanks to the Lord. If with the weaknesses which we have recorded, we are going to be always far from ourselves, from God, and also far from relationships, because the devil doesn't want this. 9. From near, the necessity of communities arises. You see, I'm insisting for you to read these chapters by yourself before meeting in the community. Then you read it together. Don't go astray talking about other things, chatting. We must be in life in order to live. Chatting are useless. I'm enchanted by the Virgin Mary that is pregnant, doesn't speak to his husband, and she doesn't speak to Elizabeth, and they don't want a chat because words are always feeding the devils. Here we are living where there is no conscience any longer. Just see what politics we have, culture, faith that we have. Is it possible that we are reduced like this? You can see the communities, and in the south of the world, 10 communities from one zone, that the missions and the villages, and then we are going to stop even the adoptions after realizing the trainings, and they will maintain the overall and to face communism, fascism, capitalism, because they have experience of life. Only those who have experience of of living, of being male or female, this will be the future of humanity. Otherwise, everything has been condemned. Just think, this summit they are organizing, they have met to solve for the environment and whatever they have done, nothing. In fact, you see what is happening in Australia, for example. Go back to the document. In order to be always in connection with our own energies, and to be in the Holy Spirit and changing the world, reaching from the unconscious to the mission, we must be missionaries. Otherwise, the evils will fall on top of you. You lose a soul, sex, nerves, body, and mind. And here it is a mission. I wish you this mission. It is a personal. I'm joyful for that. There is no dependency of priests or of school, but there is not dependency of scientists and you person with God and the persons and communities. That is all. We thank God that through Father Angelo is giving us such a richness which we have never heard of. And we thank that through this witness that he has just given, we can seize the huge value of every person, the huge value of the person energies which are much ahead and much earlier than father and mother and ego. These um, huge realities are inside us. We have such qualities in us, we have such contents in us, but because of this total lack of light on the unconscious that nobody has ever had up to now, nobody has been able to live such potentiality that everybody has inside. Because we have negative identifications that are structured precisely after the first 30 days in the womb of our mother, which create the divisions that we all have. I'm thanking God deeply because nobody has ever spoken about sexuality in this way. We have heard and we feel that it corresponds to us. But we have seen that all what we have inside corresponds to us, yes, but also we have a lot of lack of love inside. So thank you. I would like to leave the word to Antonella because she's going to deepen this fact that all what we have recorded is not our fault. If we are like this, it is not our fault. What recovering this love means. I'm also greeting all of you, all the persons connected in the continents. I'm thanking God, the Virgin of Tears, the Virgin Mary, and Father Angelo for these contents which are uh, helpful for the salvation of humanity today. I wouldn't like to speak much because I think we have heard huge contents. I would like just to underline one point of what has come out today. Father Angelo is asking us to read these books. He wrote these books, yet he reads these books once in a year at least. We must read them more often because we have inside the negative identifications of the centuries, which has never been seen nor solved. Yet we don't even know that we have them. This document that Father Angelo read was inviting us to read says it has never existed a true sexuated love, a true sexual anthropology has ever existed. And sexual conditioning couldn't be seen because the anthropology was not there. And above all, there is a lack of experience of love. So what I think is that since Adam and Eve, it has always lacked the true experience of love. So it is not enough saying that we have a negative identifications. We must touch them, and so we need to read these books, but never reach reading these books, remaining with our own ego or making reasonings, but living and experiencing in communities every week because these devils, which are in the nerve cells, are there and they are century old until I don't have the experience of love. I can speak, I can understand, but I'm not nothing. When Father Angelo was telling me that I was understanding everything, but he says I couldn't have the experience of love. I couldn't see, but actually I couldn't love. I thought I was capable of loving because I was a missionary with Solidaria, but it is not true. I was loving. I was making efforts, and I was sick for a long time, because but I never given up. I've never given up. I never given up. I've continued being serious, at least with the coming of religious research, reading the books, never losing my any meetings, even though I didn't understand. And the experience of community has been very much important. I had the grace of experiencing the community with Father Angelo since the time of the beginning. All this has taken me without understanding anything, but all this light that I couldn't see, understand, and I couldn't live, yet going to the mission. This took me, led me to go to Lourdes. I didn't know if I even the reason why I was going there, and especially when I went there for the bath with the Virgin Mary, I felt the womb of the Virgin Mary. we in this video we have seen that this child become a repressed masturbator, homosexuality, incestuous in the womb of the mother. Here, until we are serious with these contents and we reach to make an orderly experience, retrieving our true mother deeply, we can understand, but it is not true because we don't make step of love. We don't have a sexuality in love. Yet around we have a whole culture which is against this. The Virgin Mary always appears close to the water. Mercy means mercy on the womb, not on the miseries. Today, it is not enough even living this, but we must commit to make other live it. So another one cannot. I mean, there is not one person that can live in my place. So the value of the mission in the missions and in the territories is precisely to witness this love that we have retrieved. So I don't know how to explain this. I feel it is an experience that we must be very serious, even when we make communities don't speak of what don't speak about what we think that the Holy Spirit wants to say. Just remain in the contents, make us resound, put them in practice, and exchange until this takes us to meet the Virgin Mary. The Virgin Mary takes us to meet Christ. Christ leads us to the Father, and the Father takes us to the Holy Spirit, and we are missionaries like this, as it is in the logo. Otherwise, we are lost and false. We hear these things, but it is high time to experience. One time only is not enough. A good meeting is not enough. I don't want to say much more. I'm praying that we make true steps. It is not a miracle to meet the Virgin Mary, meeting Christ, receiving the Holy Spirit. And Father Angelo is a witness, is 88 years old. I don't think we know how many 88 years old men which are like this. It is a witness. Also, we have the same life. We can reach this dimension. I'm praying that we are serious on all this by making an experience, personal experience, and making other do. Thank you, Antonella. As you are saying, it is something very personal. Retrieving this love, personal love with the Virgin Mary, with Jesus, with God, and receiving the Holy Spirit. Thank you that you were reminded that all this happened to us through a great commitment. Thank to God and Father Angelo and to the books. Otherwise, we are going to be confused very easily. What it has been thrown away is in our unconscious, this unconscious that Father Angelo has lived in the unconscious life of the persons. So thank you that you also recorded. Thank you because also you reminded the importance of the mission, which is not the old mission, the old charity, but the true mission. Without mission, without the true mission, we can't retrieve the sexuality in love. And this is a huge discovery of Father Angelo because if I had to live it, I had necessity of getting rid of all the negative identifications which I have recorded because I have not faced without my fault. If I need to be free, I can't do it alone. I can't do it. This deep experience with the Virgin Mary in love and charity is through the mission that I can be healed. On this, I would like to leave the word to David, which is going to expound on this subject, which is the mission. Good afternoon, everybody, and to all our brothers and sisters which are following, not only those who are present. I thank God. I thank you, Father Angelo, also for what even today we have received. We have touched very true points, especially also what Antonella said, very strong, very true for each one of us. Antonella said that she was knowing everything, no? But she was not there. She went to the Virgin Mary in a relationship and she started to be there. She was dreaming of being like a mummy in kilometers of mountains because it was like recorded generations of a generation. And to and she's still committed to get rid of all this, and so we must be like the Virgin Mary to be committed and in the Holy Spirit, never having negative identifications to face all the evils and be missionaries. That is what. The point is that we are all created like this. So we are all created because of that. Even this image of this book about the negative identification, there is a cell, a nerve cell, with all the devils in the synopsis. You know? It is the cover of the last book. But this is the picture of what we have inside without fault. We have seen the other time the genitality with love. We are created like that, but the reality is that we have recorded a lot of rubbish, which is not our fault, but snake after snake has entered in our nerve cells. And since the nerve cell never change, we are repeating the old, which is not of God, is not mine, not coherent with our needs, not coherent with our relationship and nature. And it is not our fault. By grace of God, nowadays we have truly a possibility of moving out of this perceiving, participating, and persisting in an experience. Many have science, faith, despite science, faith, precisely. Sometimes science and faith, instead of removing these devils, they have added on top of the ones we have. I was talking the other day, I was at Termini station. I was going to Trentino. At the Termini station, just ordinary Wednesday. This person was running, no? One day was quarreling on the phone, shouting. The, the screens of the TVs were they were giving the news of the morning, Iran bombing the America, Libya, another war. Then a 15 years girl committed suicide in Rome. So people were living this. Now, in that time, what are our nerve cells recording? Is that life? No, it was hell. It is not the life that we have. No, it is nothing to do with us, but this is precisely what we end up in experiencing daily. Like the letter of Father Angelo wrote, read, the other man, he was talking about the phone calls he received yesterday. So, and we see how, at which level we have to perceive, participate, and persist in order to give a name to that darkness, and realizing that despite that dark, there is a huge potential by creation that no devil, no negativity can defeat. And we have inside yesterday, today, and tomorrow in every part of the world. But our task is also to raise the hand, the logo, towards the cross and the Virgin Mary, not as a devotion, but not in a superficial way or following the rites. It means body, blood of Christ that can clean that darkness, my personal death in the Holy Spirit, and all this in order to be missionary. I've always been touched by this concept of mission that Father Angelo has expressed. You know very well, I studied international cooperation because I wanted to help the people in the world. But what usually is studied, do things, you have to plan, you have to build, do things. But I thank God that finally we can realize that be missionaries means removing one by one, removing all these devils in the nerves by facing time, moment by moment, to face and solve all the unconscious devils, my, my, and the one of our brothers and sisters. Because if I don't see them, they fall on top of me. Here we can see the word of Christ. My disciples speak new languages and defeat with me my devils. Don't allow to be conditioned any longer by negativities, and they heal sicknesses of faith, of soul, of nerves, sex, nerves, body, and mind. This is the word of Christ. My disciples, which means the call of being a disciple of Christ, but in the way it is necessary today, not the one of 2000 years ago. And so in these books, there is expression of all this missionary action in order to live all this. So I'm thanking God also because in small, big missionary experiences which I have had, I see that it's not enough, It's not enough to understand what masturbation is, isolation is, or repression is, and incest is, and I've understood it's important to reach love and falling in love. I've understood, but now am I living it? In order for me to live it, what am I supposed to do? So I think all of you know me, my history. I'm not going to repeat, the history of isolation which I had in my nerves. And like many, I thank God that every time I moved a bit in the mission with this courage, which I've lived more and more the contents of these books, I'm still have a way ahead of me, but every time one small snake was being removed by one of my cells, nerve cells, because it is being missionary that cleanses our cells, which the love of God that cleanses us, giving love for our brothers and sisters in this charism. That's how the missionary points come out in my territory when I am living. I meet one person, I start one community, I don't lose words, and I participate in a deep way. I connect myself with the children south of the world. I participate in the trainings, in the relationships. They are all deep experiences which help us to see and chase the devils away and healing all the sicknesses. Otherwise, I can come here, I can learn with my mind all the books, but nothing is solved. So God is calling us to give our body blood and to give this experience. We need. Nobody deserves to be sick. Nobody deserves to remain in the devil's around. It is not embedded in our creation, live with such dimensions. In front of this, I thank God, I thank you, Father Angelo. Today we have a way that each one of us, at personal level, it is not Father Angelo asking you or the volunteer of Italia Solidale coming to you asking something, no? But it's for you to experience what you have inside, to participate to yourself, to God, and to others. One day I was in Turkana, and there was one man. No, you know it is a people which is very strong, but the women are very much suffering there. Culturally, they are not respected. Man is always overpowering them. They suffer. Husbands have many wives. Okay, they have generally great dignity, but at the same time, they suffer. They don't talk. And so I remember when Father Angelo wrote the letter for the freedom, dignity, and independence of the poor, they started reading this letter in Turkana region. They felt immediately that inside there is a great act of love for you, for them. Because this woman, for example, was saying, nobody has ever loved me. Nobody has made me feel the dignity, independence which I retrieve in this mission. It has been difficult because she couldn't believe she could have been able to love because nobody had told her, yes, beautiful letter, but it is the duty of my husband to make that option be done. But instead, being helped, she came out of her isolation, her incest, her difficulty of seeing the diversity. Today, for example, she started make an adoption which is now connected to India. She came out of her difficulty of identity. Really a wonderful healing, a wonderful mission. To me, these are often, to me, promoting one adoption or relating with one worthy person is always a cross because my nerve cells tell me repeatedly, you are not worthy, you are isolated, you are going to disturb, I have to go. Because so all these divisions are experienced. But if we see this experience as God wants, I defeat very easily masturbation, repression, homosexuality, incest, and prostitution. And so finally, I can experience was what falling in love with God means. So I can experience what is the meaning of really getting rid of the darkness with the fire. I think many experience this. For example, not reaching the community meeting, you have to fight a number of obstacles, but maybe never giving up. Maybe your husband doesn't want, the others don't understand. The whole world is telling you the opposite, but being coherent with that, we all perceive that we have forces that are not ours, which are not of God. The forces are full, full of devils that bear death, but everybody can get rid of that. That's why now 9 worthy person in each territory means getting rid of these devils so that we are not alone. In each territory, two communities with the 9, the 8, the 7, the 6. The second community, the 5, the 4, the 3, the 2, the 1, two communities, so that finally, from in all the territories, we can finally experience these contents in relationship with others. Make them immediately move and start the adoption precisely because they have to be helped. Not to, I mean, they have to move to charity, and so that we can start immediately be in contact with the south of the world because they already have this experience. They can teach us how to make to start communities because they experience it. So when we speak of all this, it is not just a concept of something to be understood, but it is a necessity for every person. And I wish all of you, also me, because we don't deserve anything different than that. Let us help each other to wake up because it is not enough understanding. We know, we know. Enough. I wish all of you the full experience of all this. Thank you, David. We have always spoken about communities, but do we have the experience of it now? We are in a reality of great, respect because we are all coming, from. I mean, you come purposely, There is a whole commitment, and everybody is committed, and so this means when these contents are expressed like it has happened now, inside the soul breathes and is retrieved, and many negativities which we have just disappeared simply because of that. Our more small communities are supposed to be like these places of great respect with these contents. These contents, I would like to leave the word to Paolo, which is going to speak about this. Only when we have such communities, sexuality can, with personal commitment, with respect, without God, without talking, without discussing, but only silent listening of these contents of the person and everybody participating, one can start a path of cleansing our sexuality. I want to leave Paolo deepen this very important possibility that we all have. Thank you. Thank God. Thank Father Angelo for this great opportunity. I'm happy to be here today in this church at the presence of the Virgin Mary, Virgin of our tears, because it is a sign that we are children, her children, and we are children of a mother that never accept negativities and violence. And this love that personally I'm trying to live and experience with my mother, the Virgin Mary. I feel the need, necessity of passing this to others. I was meditating about what to say today. this big subject of community, but meditating, I actually my experience is born out of them. I met this experience 4 years ago, and I met in the territories of Lombardia. And immediately, what I perceived of this charism, of this anthropology, is that the community comes only after that the person has said yes to God. This is all what made me move. I come from an experience where, in my past experience, where everybody is speaking of community, being with God, it becomes like talking, covering the problems, and we become stronger with the strength of others. So this experience of falsehood has been there. Instead, I realized that this is a different experience. In the first 4 months, I remember I was only reading the books of Father Angelo. I was following the masters of Father Angelo because there was something that I had to gather inside me. And I remember very well that naturally, after some time, the experience of meeting with other persons in the territories, it's been naturally. Actually, I had an attempt of community 4 years ago, and it has been a very fundamental experience because it has been a possibility of opening these contents in the relationship and start solving. But at the same time, I felt also that something was lacking. What was lacking was the charity, and so the need of experiencing mission to get rid of negative identifications. I remember very well that my witness outside couldn't be only of talking about what I was doing or saving a child, but the true change I felt in this personal experience was that when I started taking position in the places where there were more devils, which means in the family, with the friends, with their work. I was doing all this unconsciously without anybody telling me to do. The fact is that I had started to get rid of my disease. This has been very important because Father Angelo has realized this need for me to leave a community, and that's why I decided to shift from Milano to here to Rome to live and form communities for these contents to be experienced. Actually, what I saw clearly that at the time where I started to repair this experience of community, I've always looked to find this in the family, but I was repeating the dynamics of the family, also the communities. The experience I had by then also had given me some negativity because of this, but at the time I started solving these negativities was while I was in a mission in India. One family gave me the witness of what being community means. The first time I went to Kerala, I found a community of 5 persons where there was a lot of suffering because one man, the man of this community was drinking and was alcohol addict and was giving a lot of problems to the family. A lot of disturbances were coming from him. And so it was a young family, little experience, but they had already realized that the man was suffering. It was not his fault. Everybody was judging. But first of all, they realized that it was not his fault. The second point they realized is that the suffering was unconscious. They realized that this man was started drinking and destroying things always in the evening when it was 8, 9 in the evening. And they have realized that this was precisely what his father used to do. being violent and abandoned. No? The community, instead of talking, they started meeting every day at 8 p.m. at the time where it was supposed to. They started there. Precisely, this was missing, no, because this gave me a witness of what community means. The community is not a place where we are all, no, talking, or we express opinions, but it is an experience. The fact of being able to see and repairing concretely, this is also the witness I feel very worthy for my life and the call for the lunch of today. The 2020 is the year that we are dedicating to the twinnings. To reach twinnings, we need two communities, two serious communities to reach, like the south of the world. To find two communities, which means nine serious persons. In the recent months, retrieving myself to experience a lot of community also among us, you know. I feel there are a lot of changes which are occurring in us, in our way of being, and the experience that we are starting, in the experience of community that we are starting also, the experience I'm living with the friends in my territories. It's something revolutionary that which is helping me also to prepare my family. When Father Angelo says the community comes before the family, it is right. Not because it is more important, but because without the reparation of the suffering that we have received, especially from the family, if we don't have a relationship continuously in love and missionary, we'll never be able to form families and even repair the families which are really there. I'm thanking deeply God for this possibility that which has been given. Possibility of being very much serious and to be very much with the Virgin Mary, and with Christ, because the communities are only Eucharistic communities. And the Eucharistic community, it is not a community where Christ is the center and the others who see, but persons who hug Christ, put themselves together, the personal experience of Christ, communities where everybody can help each other and then support, be missionaries, connected with the South, the family of the South of the world, which have experience that comes by the fact that they see the problems, they want to solve them, not with their own mind, but with Christ. So I'm thanking God for this experience that we can live, and I'm praying deeply that we are giving foundation with the 98 the 765 54321 is based on a personal yes to Christ and an experience of sharing these contents, because the fact of reading one chapter before at home and then reading as a community is not a small thing or rule, but something very simple but necessary for these contents to move something in us and make this become an experience of love. I'm praying that there can be there this silence and effectiveness. And because the Lord wants this to happen throughout Italy, and I'm praying so that in the end of January we can reach all this completeness, so that we can live in the missions connected to between really the south of the world and Italy being connected. had been very much committed, and he was having responsibility of the youth in Milano diocese. But this responsibility was doing things, beating obedience, and it was not safeguarding his person at all. So this is a grace. He was not realizing the chaos in the parishes, but he has perceived and he has come here, and here he has found more and more himself, communities and missions. Now, the 9th February, is going to get married. With a girl which is very much missionary from India. This is a grace, personal grace, but we must get rid of all deceits. I'm happy of being oblate of Virgin Mary, which is to retreat, to find one's own health consecrated to the Virgin Mary, for one's own health, one's own sanctification, relationship with God and the person, and so fighting against current mistakes. We have so many mistakes currently because it has never been their science. I mean, because there has always never been science put it themselves just getting rid of God, or religions that didn't substitute the person. So I wish all of you to have such communities which are very much important. And in fact, I would like to have by the end of this month in each territory to have 2 communities to start saving Italy, because it is very much needed. Otherwise, love, falling in love, families going out of the deceits of school or work is not true. So I would like you to be missionaries in order to be over to subdue to negative identifications. The grace we have is already, we can see that in recent weeks, 5 persons have been healed by cancer by families of the south of the world which have received the adoption. This is the Lord working, it's not me. But participating in this plan of grace, you will see, if you participate through communities, what is going to happen in your person, in your family, in your work, in your territory. Then will be connected to the missions. And I know already that it is this poor of the mission that we have the poorest of South America and Africa and India. It is incredible, the richness of the poor people. It's huge because they don't have conditionings. They're humble and simple like the Virgin Mary. They have things, I mean, problems, but they are more capable of getting rid and solving them. I wish you could see how make use of these books, how they can get rid. In the trainings, they will be the one helping us, and we will, have receive help from them. And this is going to be relationships capable of changing this world. That's why we are named Italy Solidale, World Solidale, without small things or structures or dependencies or slaveries. The Lord is there, the devil is there, but we are there in order to live and make others live. and retrieving ourselves, our sexuality in love, and helping also others that find themselves like we have seen. So I thank the Lord and I thank all of you. Have a good work, good mission. Thank you. Thank you also for this conclusion, which is the starting point of the mission of the territories. I wish we all start immediately this experience, which is personal, with the books. Once in a week, as this has been said, we are going to meet. Next lesson is going to be the 1st of February, Saturday, 1st February, where we are going to meet Caris and Missionary Charity to retrieve fully the in love with God, reaching one's own sexual genitality until the twinnings. Love is the perpetual encounter of two, complete and persistent in love. This is our vocation. We pray that from here to the 1st February, this may be already an experience for everybody and all the persons connected to us in communion with the south of the world. We thank God and Father Angelo, all the intervention of these contents, which are life for us. We have met what mission with the of having solved. The missionary said very clearly, there is not life outside the charism. We have a huge grace. We have new contents, but they are the most ancient. But you can give your tithe. The scriptures, the scripture speaks of the importance of the tithe. You know? Glorify the Lord with a generous soul, with your offering. In each offering, show the joy of your face. Give to the Most High based on the gift you received, according to your possibility, because the Lord will pay you back 7 times as much. So those who wish to give, you can find the way today and tomorrow. On the envelopes, you can put the offerings. Okay. I'm also thanking for the tithe. I'm touched the way the people live, but also how they die. So our departed one, until they don't have all the fullness of spirit, they don't go to heaven. So thank you that you are already asking to celebrating masses. You can give your tithe, asking maybe for masses to be celebrated. Okay, be certain of that. At the same time, we have to pray because one person died today while she was traveling, reaching here. This Giuseppina died. This lady was having such a huge love. She was really loving this Caris. I have the certainty she's in heaven. She had a child who died recently. We have to pray for her a lot because she deserves heaven. Amen. Oh, la Signora splenda adesso, luce perpetua, riposi in pace. Amen. we meet tomorrow for the Mass.